you're here about funding, and we'll give you a few extra minutes and we'll have you, I guess, towards the end, if you don't mind. So, Murray, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so Murray rang the other day and I invited him down here, so...
Yeah. Yeah, there's concerns with quite a few other people. The amount of spitting that's going on in the main street. This is just nonsensical. Whether you do posters or whether you liaise with the schools on this and to start nipping it right in the bud with the younger ones, because not just me but many people have come out of the bakery down the road, done a big hoik straight on the footpath, you know, and with these times now, you know, it's just crazy. It is, it's crazy. So there needs to be some education, something done about it. And this, well, it will flow into influenza, everything, you know, all these things get passed by it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions for Murray? So, what would your number one thing for us to be able to do you think, Murray? I mean,
well, the biggest impact I see would be through the schools. Okay. Start teaching the younger ones. You know, this is just, it's just not common sense.
You got any comments about that, Morgan?
I think that amongst other things, cool, mate. I think that amongst other things, spitting, littering, there are societal expectations that we obviously are tackling in schools as they are now to be good citizens.
Yeah.
And this is just another one of those things, especially here in our community, that we are working in schools. But I'd say that, you know, once they leave, all of the adults who are doing it right now have already gone through. So I honestly don't know how to tackle it, other than by, obviously, when I see someone the other day out the front of the laundromat, I saw someone chuck their rubbish out, so I went and knocked on the window and said, I don't appreciate they're going to pick it up. And then they told me to F off and they drove off and then I picked it up. So unless you're actually, as a citizen in our society, speaking up where you do see it, I don't know how effective it will be until this younger generation, who are going to be the superstars of our country when they move through, actually get into involvement. Right now, it's just up to us as individuals to really speak up when we see things that we don't agree with.
Yeah, well, then with that, some posters on it, even in the main street, to get some sort of recognition of it to start with. But the schools, you starting there, and I think it would slowly get rid of it. But then, you know, the children going home, and, I'm not spitting there, Dad. You know, well, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to break my own rule here, Murray, and tell you a story rather than ask you a question. Apparently, I mean, I'm going to support what Michael just said, and that is when the kids come through, right? Back in the day, we had hundreds of years of duelling where people used to kill each other. Okay, and that apparently stopped in 10 years. Okay, it's from the point where it was everybody did it to the point where it was just socially acceptable. Unacceptable was it was in the space of less than 10 years.
Yeah.
And what it boiled down to is that the generation coming through that didn't have a say, who knew it was wrong, okay, in the space of that 10 years, they became the leaders of the world. Okay, and because they knew it was wrong, even though it was being done, they effectively, their ideas came to the fore. And so all I can say is that it'll probably take a little while, but as long as our kids are being taught, as Michael says, that is wrong, then one day, I think it'll probably just stop. That's my hope.
Well,
we can hope. We just have to bide our time and teach our kids not to, in the hope that one day those old folks will get the message.
Yeah, but then some recognition with posters around.
Okay, well,
You know, just-
we normally have a bit of a discussion after our meeting on the things that you brought up, and we may be able to get the work with the business association or something to work through that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
As part of the what's the word I'm looking for? As part of the increase in technology that we've had over the last few months, and the increase in capacity, furthermore, the agitation of this community board to have meetings live streamed. I've just been informed that this meeting is in fact being live streamed this morning, so just to let everybody know. Thank you.
How do you get hold of it? What do you...
Probably on YouTube, is it? Yeah, so YouTube for FNDC.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Janine, oh, hang on, so no, we'll take you a little bit later, we'll give you more time. Charles, would you like to join us? Hang on, Charles, hang on. Okay, right, you're welcome. Go on up.
Morning, folks. This is regards RFS 4018000. This is about the Ventnor Memorial. It's a series of RFSs I've put in over time. It's come to the stage where I'll make a statement now. The actions taken by the interest parties to date have been manifestly prejudicial to Te Māhururi. Prejudice, in my view, upon analysis and assessment, is institutional, cultural and personal. I request that you address this issue. My last RFS was to the Mayor and I still have no comebacks. Now, my last meeting with you guys a couple of years ago, I think, I mentioned about invasion and avoidance. Okay, and that still stands today, folks. So, can you do something for me, please?
Okay. I've got Kim on to letting us know what it's all about, so we'll, once again, at the end of the meeting, hopefully we'll have more information about the full email trail and we'll be able to have a discussion amongst ourselves to see what we can move forward. I mean, if it's in this room, if the problem is a community board one, we'll see what we can do, otherwise we'll just pass it on.
As I said, it was institutional, that's my opinion, and that's my view.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Sean, good morning.
Good morning,
Welcome.
Chairman. I was involved with a discussion with some people the other day that wanted to shift the Freedom camping site from where it is to Reed Park. And I said I would be adamantly opposed. I think there is room in Reed Park, after going and looking at it, in the middle of it, to accommodate Freedom campers and get them away from down here. The idea does have something to commend it. But my real purpose here today was to extend the cycle trail. Joe Carr told me the other day in the conversation, people would like to come down the road to the Narrows and be able to hop on the ferry and get to Rawene. And all it would take, apparently, is the ferry to just nose up against the bank. There's a sandy beach there, and they can hop on. And it could be on demand as and when required. The ferry master could see somebody standing on the shore, or they could put a flag up, like the signal station at Mapari, something like that. Actually, would add to the cycle trail benefits and attractions of our district. Thank you.
Okay, let's just say there, Sean. Anybody got a question?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. You're sort of saying that you take the ferry, you've taken it out of its lane onto the road and put it on a sandy beach. Can't the bicycles get onto the...
If you're on the Waimar side of the Narrows, you can't just hop onto the ferry. The ferry has to come to you. There is...
I don't understand. I'm sorry.
I don't understand that.
Right, let's take the ferry coming from Rawene to the Narrows.
Yeah.
Straight opposite, across that narrow bit of water, there's a road comes down to the sea, Hapango Road.
Oh, you're talking about going over towards Warwick, taking the ferry across the tracks?
Yeah. If somebody was riding a bike and got to there, it wouldn't take much for the ferry to just divert across and pick up.
There is a business set up at Kaikohe to take cyclists.
It's, to me, and the discussion I had with Joe was really neat. It seemed very logical and very simple. I brought it to you so that something may happen, and if it does, well and good. If in the collective wisdom of the community board it's a no-go, that's all right too. It was something I said I would do, and I've done it.
That seems a great place for a bridge, Sean. What do you think about that?
Yes, the bridge is a utopian idea that will never happen.
Yeah, we want to speak there.
Community board member Alan Hessel and I have got some ideas about how it might happen. So, very, very culturally appropriate ideas, and we think it'd be a blast. Okay, thank you very much.
Bear in mind the bridge down there in the Auckland Harbour cost, I think, $40,000 or $90,000 then, about 40 years ago.
Okay, thank
Not
you.
a pipe dream.
Okay, Janine.
I'm here about the community funds, is that right?
Yeah. That's effectively speaking to your application.
Yeah, speaking to the application that we made.
So you've got about 10 minutes if you want it.
Sorry?
You've got 10 minutes if you want it. We're done with your
I
application.
probably don't need 10 minutes.
Go for it.
You've got the application that was the application was put in by the Hokianga Community Educational Trust, but that's as an umbrella for another, I guess, a group that formed specifically for the purpose of working with council to manage the former Raumani campus, the abandoned campus, on behalf of the community for educational purposes. And it was suggested to us that we could apply for funding for some equipment to keep there, because we've been having voluntary days. People have been coming. We've had over 40 people have turned up now on subsequent weekends and brought their own tools and have been cleaning up the grounds, cleaning up the rooms, water blasting and so on. So it's kind of reliant on people coming. It's reliant on people bringing their own gear. At some point, there's going to need to be gear there for the purpose of the campus and not somebody else's stuff. So that was what the application was for. And I did the thing of, finding 3 different quotes. It's quite difficult, actually. We've got like 2 places that sell sort of machinery. Anyway, I did, and the total that we've requested is just over is $2,618.45. And I don't know if you would want me to say anything more about it.
Right, we'll ask questions,
Yep.
Janine.
Can I just add a point here?
Yep.
Like this report, the application is not in our file because of an error. Can we make sure that when we discuss it, we have the paperwork in front of us?
Yep.
Oh, you've got it there already?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
we'll
thank you.
do that. Cool.
It's a copy for each of us, is there?
I can print it up.
Okay, thank you.
I couldn't really hear that, Louis, sorry.
That's it. Right, any other questions for Janine? No? Good. It looks like your application was complete, Janine.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janine.
Okay, and David, come on up.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Dave Adams. I'm here in my capacity today as chair of the South Hokianga War Memorial Hall Committee, which we refer to locally as the Okanoni Hall. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we've last year we applied for funding for a sign. Now, do you all have this in front of you, the application?
Yeah.
Do each of the members have it?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We applied last year for the sign and it was rejected because we didn't have a resource consent and we didn't have NZTA approval. We now have NZTA approval and we have resource consent. The reason we need NZTA approval is the area in front of the hall is actually reserve highway, NZTA reserve highway. That's why we needed their approval, which we've now got. We've managed to get the RSA to go into this, and they're giving us $1,200. The Open Only Market, who are the one of the hall biggest users, are giving us $400, and I'm asking for $3,069 to balance the budget for us to put up this sign. Questions?
Seems a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, exactly, yes. Yeah, it's, we haven't had to get engineering drawings done, but almost. Yeah.
With regard to vandalism, how will vandalism happen on the site?
Well,
Seeing they're going to be removable and all sorts of things?
well, the idea is, if we can go to the diagram of the sign, Louis, I can find my diagram. The top, basically the top and the bottom of it will be fixed to give the sign stability. So this is the diagram I'm referring to at the moment. So the top will be fixed and the bottom will be fixed to give the sign stability. These other ones, 1, 2, 3 or 4 shown on here, will be slide in. And the sign that we copied is the one at Paparoa Community Hall. And they have just slide-in boards about that high that sign in, and they have a bolt that goes to the end. Well, we can put a padlock on or whatever. But the idea is that we have some fixed boards, like for the hall itself, and then people like the market who are there once a month, they have a board that they slide in when it's time for the market. And look, we just had Daffodil Day, they'd slide their board in type thing as well. At the RSA for Anzac Day or Remembrance Day would slide their board in. So that's the idea. So we have a music group for a week in January, they'll slide their boards in. That's the whole idea of it, making it simple.
So these other groups will all be going to be making their own stuff?
They'll have to either pay for it and we'll make it on their behalf, or they'll have to do their own. Yeah, we'll give them diagrams, dimensions, so they can do it. So as for vandalism, we've been pretty lucky with the hall, we haven't had any issues.
Well, there's been a few
Touch wood.
painted on the building.
Yes.
So Dave, I know that you've got big plans for that hall.
Yes.
Okay, and I imagine part of those plans are to come back to the community board for more money later to help with those plans.
Yes.
So the question is, we'll probably look back, we'll probably consider what we've got left versus what's already been spent on different projects, and we may look back at this and say, look, we've already given them $3,000 this year, and they'll have to wait. So my question here is that the most important thing for you to get out of us this year, given that this may be the last thing you get for a year?
On our priority list, like that we did, this was priority number 2.
Okay.
Priority 1 was the reticulation or the upgrading of the electrical system for the markets, and that will be a council funded issue, which I'm talking to council about separately.
Right.
But for community funding, this is our highest priority at the moment.
Thank you. Right, any other questions?
Yeah, have you applied to Pub Charity at all for anything in this?
I've just had a meeting with Catherine, and we went through all the funding avenues. Like Mike said, we've got lots of plans and we've got lots of work. We need to refurb the kitchen, we need to refurb the amenities. So I'm talking to Catherine about all those for which different avenues we can go for that sort of funding. I think we had 14 or 15 different organisations on the list. It's just a matter of getting my head around which organisation does capital, which one does maintenance, and so on. But yes, I'm working through that. But for the sign, the only applications have gone to the RSA and the market and the community.
And you've got several initiatives underway to supply it. So how many more marketing components are you looking to get funded?
Market, you mean for the hall in general? I don't think there were any more marketing. The rest are either maintenance or capital. Okay.
Great. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Hey, Tracy, would you like to join us? Okay, this is about your funding application.
Yes.
Great, away you go.
Okay, kia ora everyone. So This, we want to hold a wānanga, and it's to make piu-piu. And the idea of making piu-piu is really hard. That's a hard thing. You have to be like a master weaver. So that's the thought. But what we want to provide each participant is a positive experience that will motivate and encourage an interest in weaving with harakeke. In this instance, piu-piu. So how we're going to achieve that is just create that comfortable learning environment that will inspire confidence in weaving, and the atmosphere would be weavers all around with flax everywhere, but also the learning process. And I quite believe that when you've got when you're given positive lessons, step by step, stage by stage, but also an achievable outcome. So that's the experience we want to provide them, just so they can encourage them to have that interest. And the process, there's 3 things that contribute to achieving a piu-piu. So it's the tools that you use. So we're hoping to provide those tools and teach these students how to learn how to use each tool. What are they and how to use them. Also, the second one is the process, that basic process of harakeke, that's flax. So how to identify which type to use for piu-piu, how to harvest and how to prep. And the last one is learning the technique. So with those 3 basic things, if you can achieve that, you can actually make a piu-piu, whether you're a beginner or you've been weaving for years. And the key people in our rōpū, they're all master weavers who have experienced and met the challenges of making a piu-piu, and they're willing to share their knowledge and techniques to overcome those challenges. And the benefits, everyone will benefit. They'll all learn the basic process of making a piu-piu, start to finish, because our idea too is to get them to all make a little sample, a little tauira, so that they've made that throughout those couple of days and they can take that home with them. They'll also benefit by the knowledge and the skills of a traditional Māori art that's been handed down from our tūpuna. And they'll get a deeper understanding and appreciation for the skills and the techniques that are involved. And that will give them that sense of belonging, sense of achievement, and confidence, cultural identity. So I also bought a sample of a piu-piu, just to give an idea of what we want them to achieve. Not all in that one workshop, but an actual, like a long-term goal. And this is a contemporary piu-piu, because you don't see green piu-piu, but it's this is just a sample of what we want the students to achieve. Because in the last 5-10 years, piu-piu have become quite a huge demand. Everyone wants to go back to traditional Māori dress in their kapahaka, and schools in particular. So they're calling out for a lot of weavers to make piu-piu, and there's very little weavers. So this is an opportunity for us to teach beginners, give them the encouragement to actually learn how to do it and achieve it. And in the long run, it will benefit the whole community as well as themselves. So.
Great, thank you, Tracy. Hang on, don't say that, Yep. Kelly will ask the first question, and then Emma will ask the second question. There you go, Kelly.
Yeah, I've actually got 2. How are you going to advertise this, and what are the numbers on the course?
So we're looking at up to 20 participants, and the advertising is just word of mouth.
You want a follow-up question there, Kelly?
Proceed.
Emma?
Okay, so what follow-up are you going to do after this first workshop?
So the follow-up, we're hoping to run a few more workshops thereafter to lead up to. So we're hoping to just start with this first big process, and then thereafter have more wānanga, have more to do the full process.
And
second question. Have you actually looked into, educational sources like Te Wānanga Aotearoa? Weren't they doing that at one stage?
No, I haven't. What initiated this course, this wānanga, was I had been asked by numerous people, and I also talked with a professional weaver, and he wanted to come up and teach us the traditional art of piu-piu. So initially it was for experienced weavers, but then it opened an opportunity for beginner, because this experienced weaver, he said, well, I don't see why we can't have beginners there to watch this process, so they get to learn as well and get to be encouraged to be the next up and coming weavers.
I think it's an opportunity to actually run classes, and and those who participate can actually pay for those classes.
Mike?
Moko?
Kia ora, JC. I've got a couple of questions here. I know that there are some weaving classes in Whangarei and then the universities too in Auckland and Waikato, but none of them are at that technical skill level of getting to that stage. There are few and far between that can do that. Our own kura paid $15,000 for a new set of piu-piu, and we had to go to Rotorua because we don't actually have that knowledge base here in Northland to be able to do stuff like this. You said around 20 participants via Trace. What's the, and you called them students, but I know that they're not actually like the students. It's going to be held at our kura just as the host area, but what's the age range of the participants?
So I've opened it to all age ranges. In past, we've had wānanga where we've just gathered as weavers and we bring our mokopuna. So I have two mokopuna, 8 and 10, who weave, and the other weavers have children as well. So we've opened it from child about 7 to queer, and also male and female, because there are a lot of male who are interested in learning, and they're really good weavers. So it's open to all ages and both genders.
Louis?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Like your applications for 4,300, but as a community board, we're largely restricted to only paying 50%. I'm not sure whether you're aware of that. The other thing is for facilitators and professional fees, you've got down 2,400. That's $600 a day. Is that for one person or two persons?
That was one person. So that person there, he is a professional piu-piu maker, and when I had spoken to him and asked him how much would you charge, he said, well, when you get a professional weaver in, you pay $600, you pay for their accommodation, you pay for their travel. So I said, oh, okay, yep. So I went from that figure.
So the accommodation is not included in that figure?
No.
So, okay, yeah, put that down, right? Okay.
Tracy, you mentioned that this will be ongoing. Okay, so you'll get this weaver back and you'll do more classes, I guess, and more wānanga into the future?
Yes.
How far apart, how often, and how are you going to fund those? Just out of interest.
So it would be probably 3 times a year, maybe 4 maximum. And yeah, we'd probably try and look at other sources of funding. So.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
I did want another follow-up point. If you don't get the full $4,300, how are you going to fund the remainder if you have to pay the facilitators taking $600 a day?
So yeah, that was the main thing, was to pay him, because when it comes to everything else, I'm pretty sure we can, us weavers, we would probably be able to do all we can to fill in everything else. But yeah, it was mainly to pay him. And if I don't get that full fund, then we'll just have to pay for it ourselves as weavers. And yeah.
Thank you, Tracy. Before you go, I noticed that it's at the end of this month, yes?
Yes.
Okay, would you please come back next month and tell us how it went? Well, assuming you get some money, of course. I'd love to.
Oh, yes, and so I take it I'll be doing like a project thing
We'd
where I'll...
just love to have you here for a few minutes with give some slides to Kim and Marlene and have it up there and talk us through. I'm sure this will be a very
Okay.
interesting thing to hear about.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, right. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go through some of the basic stuff, because I know that we normally have a break after public forum, so we'll get some of the quick stuff out of the way. Okay, so minutes. I'm sorry we didn't get these out to you. So does anybody have any corrections in those minutes?
Put these out to us.
No, earlier. So normally we send you the minutes right straight after the meeting.
Oh, I see.
Okay, to get corrections before they arrive. So are there any corrections in this one? So all those in favour of the motion that the minutes are a true and correct record of the meeting held 5th of August 2020. All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried. Okay, so we'll go straight to 7.1, the Statement of Community Board Fund Account, page 45. Do I have a motion on that so we can start to discuss it, please?
Yeah.
Okay, Member Hessel moves that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board receives the report. Kaikohe-Hokianga Statement of Community Board Fund Account as of 31st of July 2020. Do I have a seconder?
Yep.
Oh, okay, Alan. You got any comments?
No, I don't.
No. Anybody else?
Yeah, why at August funding not in there? Why?
Because August just finished.
Yeah, there's from what I understand, Kim, you may well bring us up to speed on this, but there's a apparently there is a reports cut off, much the same as for our reports, and
No, but our meeting is the first Wednesday of every month, so I mean, I just find it so hard.
Through the chair, the reports are due 2 weeks before your meeting date. So because of that, obviously you're the first Wednesday of the month. So the reports are due halfway through the previous month, and then they run the reports at the end of each month. They don't run them when required, they run them at the end of each month.
I think what Kat is asking is that this report is at the 31st of July, okay, and the day after that we made some decisions on what we were to fund, and therefore this number isn't accurate, it's a month out of date. Even though you haven't paid it, you know, all the paperwork hasn't gone through, we still know what that should be.
The reflection though is in Catherine's report and the funding applications where it does say that your available budget is this amount. Taking into account August.
It was just a lot of money we gave away last month, so it would be really nice if that was actually there.
Yeah, sure.
So, Mr. Chair, could it be, Kelly, would it be suitable if it was there as a line item ending, so, because you can't really do the sums on it and get a report into
Well,
it?
that would be all right, at least it could be in it.
Yeah, something that sort of says expected
Yeah.
loan grants for August.
Are you saying like, you know,
Nearly
because
20 grand away.
in our minutes, how it's got how much we actually, like a total line.
Yeah. I don't know, I was looking at it and think, we don't have, we're only got half of that.
Okay, so the funding applications
Yeah, I've underlined.
is in the next one. Is there not an amount in the next report? That's what Kim was saying?
Yeah, there is 59,736 plus 333.
Okay, plus the 33, right?
Mm.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried. Okay. Now the next part of this is a fairly long part, and we normally break for morning tea. So before you break, I got an email last week and a phone call last night that I'd just like to run past you guys and see if you want to deal with it. For the last couple of years, Joe Carr and his cemetery committee out west have been working on trying to extend the Manunu cemetery boundaries. Okay, and they've been, I guess, back and forth from the council just a little bit, and I suggested to them that they do most of the work. In other words, they go to Heritage, they do all the legal work, everything that they can do before coming to council, okay, because council is stretched. So I had the head of Heritage New Zealand call me last night saying that they are happy to help Manunu Cemetery and give them the land and so forth to extend their boundaries, and they want to undertake some archaeological surveys and so forth. But to do all that, they need to have council input. So what I want to do just after lunch or after the break is attend to this business. I was just saying, hey, look, we're down with this, and we'd like the council to proceed it and have our support. Now, so the reason it hasn't come up before now, because the work wasn't done, and the reason it can't wait till the next meeting for that support is that they wish to get the archaeological work done this summer. So those are the two parts that I've got to cover under the Bloomer, is to explain why it hasn't been in and why it can't wait. What I'll do is I'll move now that after the break we deal with the Manunu Cemetery. So I move that we attend to the item Manunu Cemetery this year. Okay, got a seconder? Any conversation about that matter?
Just one question though, like there's other cemeteries in the area, and I'd like an update on what's happening with the Opanoni Cemetery that we're looking at as well.
Okay, right, we can bring that up over break now, and then we can see which way we process that. Okay, all those in favour? Aye. Any look for against? Okay, so what we'll have is we'll have 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and finish the meeting. Thank you. Right, should we start? Okay, so welcome back to the meeting. So as I said just before the break, we'll just deal with this business. I'll move that the community board ask the council work with Heritage New Zealand and the Manunu Cemetery Committee to achieve or to work through their request for the boundaries of the cemetery to be changed. Do I have a second for that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Oh, that was just the two have discussed. Okay, so just as an explanation, these people have been working, they came to me a couple of years ago asking who in council they should go to, and I suggested they do it all themselves, just work through the rules, I'll find out what I can from the council and so forth. And I suggest they just do as much as they can by themselves so they can hand over pretty much a completed project to council, so it's as little resource as possible for the council to put for this, for them to achieve their aims. They've done that. They've got all the permissions they need from all the different people and done all the hard work. So this is just to, we shouldn't have to do this, okay, but I believe that any extra support these communities can get from the community board to, in the request to council, then maybe adjustment that may add to the urgency or the elevating of the work to be done. So that's all I'm after. This is just a request that we can put on the application that those guys do. They do actually have community board support. So anybody else comment?
Yeah. Well, like you sort of said in your motion, and I think it should be stopped that just to work, council to work with this group. I think we should state that the community board wants council to, approve this or
okay, so
recognise the people for the work that they've done.
Okay, so the reason I haven't worded like that, because when you start to word it like that, you then start to get into the area that we should have advice about. Okay, so we don't know that this is the right thing. We can get personally, we might know it's the right thing. Okay, but as a governance body or as a body that deals with these things, we don't have the information to make that decision. Okay, so all we're doing is we're saying that there's a group out in the community that has what we consider an admirable goal. We'd like the council to work with them, and if they need to bring something to the community board as early as possible, they will. Okay, so this is more a kick the ball into motion resolution rather than a we're making a decision resolution.
Okay, I understand.
Okay?
Mr Chair, just a quick comment. I certainly support the resolution, and I have had discussions with Joe and understand it as well. So one of the key things is having the extra space will allow existing family members to be able to bury the members that die alongside their family plots. So there's some very good outcomes out of all of this, and I don't see any negative, so I certainly support this.
I just need
Louis second.
to discuss it.
So you did the motion that I just made.
Alan seconded it.
And then Louis second, you didn't get it? No. Oh, okay, right. The motion was, just hold on a moment. Motion was that the committee would ask the
I've got
council.
the wording.
Okay,
Just
yep.
got the motion or second.
Oh, Evans, Turbo.
Laurie, did you say you thought Alan seconded?
Sorry, did you second it, Alan?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Alan. Yes, I thought it was Turbo. Any other comments? No? Okay, we'll just put it to the motion. Just do the vote, shall we? All those in favour? Okay, anybody against? Carried, cool, thank you. Okay, so as is usual at this time, we'll go into the funding applications. So what we'll do is there's 3 funding applications in the next report. So if we want to move them and lay them on the table one at a time, then we'll do our usual move to go into public exclusion for the purposes of free and frank discussion, and then we'll pick them up in public exclusion and then bring them back afterwards with not necessarily a result, but certainly the discussion we have to have away having been done. So firstly, can I have does someone want to recommend, move all those three at once with blanks, or do you want to do them separate?
I'll do all three with one.
Okay, so John Busich moves the following. That the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board, in considering the provisions of the community grant policy, authorises a sum of blank to be paid from the community board's fund account, to the Hokianga Community Educational Trust, costs towards clearing of the railway to support the following community outcomes: proud by communities that are safe, healthy, connected and sustainable. Do I have a seconder? Seconder? Okay, Louis Turbo seconds. Okay, I move that we lay this on the table for a few minutes. Do I have a seconder? All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried. Okay, so we have a mover for the, John Busich also moves that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board, and considering the provisions of the community grant policy, authorise a sum of blank to be paid from the board's community fund account to the South Hokianga Memorial Hall, the cost towards erecting a hall sign to support the following community outcomes: proud, vibrant communities that are healthy, safe, connected and sustainable. Do I have a seconder? Yep. Okay, I'll move that we lay this on the table for a few minutes. Seconder, all those in favour? Aye. Okay. And thirdly, that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board, in considering the provisions of the community grant policy, authorise the sum of blank to be paid from the board's community fund account to Te Horo or Te Huia for costs towards running the 4-day community weaving workshop to support the following community outcomes: proud, vibrant communities that are healthy, safe, connected and sustainable. Do I have a seconder? Okay, and I move that we lay this on the table. Do I have a seconder? All those in favour? Okay, and then I now move that this meeting adjourn to a public excluded session for the purposes of free and frank discussion on these three items. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion on that? All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried.
Live stream,
Yeah, we'll do that. So our live stream will tell us when she's offline. Okay, right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I need to leave for another appointment. I've enjoyed this invitation to be here. I just wonder if there's anything you want to discuss with me as a membership before I leave.
Is there anything that is urgent to talk with the CE?
Oh, I'd like to ask him a question about, getting all this money from various COVID funds and things like that. How is getting money from those funds going to affect the jobs that are already in the pipeline, like footpaths in Hokianga? Like COVID already postponed the only one that they were going to do last year, and we're a bit concerned that things are going to get pushed aside because you've got to use this money now for the government funds.
Thanks for the really good question. There's a lot of pressure on the business as usual annual plan, which has been set and committed to, and the pressure looks like, crikey, you spend not quite $50 million a year on that, and here we are having successfully won 74.4 extra million over and above, but we've only got one council to deliver. So the elected members here will be able to tell you more about this, but they're working on now with me on how to manage the capacity. Now, one of the ideas was, how about we take some of the existing annual plan, slide it down the track, and get this fleeting opportunity for the extra funding captured. But the flaw, which is exactly what you're concerned about, but the flaw to that argument is that the entire premise for the extra funding was shovel-ready labour market mobilisation. And if you just shift present work down the track, you don't increase the number of jobs at all. So there's a moral obligation here for us to try and do all of it rather than sidestep that. So at this moment, and I don't think it's going to change, there's no appetite from elected members to bend anything down to a position down track that's in the business as usual annual plan commitment. I would say though that we've always had trouble, right? We have always put a capital plan together that's 70 million plus, and we've always spent less than 50 million trying to get there. And by the way, there isn't a single council in New Zealand that's different. On average, councils spend about 60% of their capital spend. So please do expect some different by the end of the financial year, especially under the pressure of the on. There's nothing different about the coming year in terms of our promise to deliver.
It's just a follow-up question with regard to the 60%. Like, I'll be very happy if 60% of the money that's being spent in our district is also getting to the Hokianga. Like, part of the problem is that sort of a lot of the jobs are too easy on the other side, and contractors will pick up those first, and then let the other ones lapse or go away and things like that. And we lose out on the Western Wall because it's too difficult to do some of those jobs. And I hate to see us losing jobs like that. If they do 60% of the work in the West, I'll be happy, but that's not the case. They might do 10% of the work in the West and 90% of the work in the Bay of Islands that make up that 60%, That's the
point well raised, and keep our feet to the fire on that. Your chair does it quite well. That is one of his monthly meetings with me. I know that's a problem, and we're eyes on. I know Mike will keep us honest. So please keep raising that to make sure that equitability is achieved. There's no evil intent in this whatsoever, but if there's nothing else that happens by accident, then we can try hard.
Thanks. Thank you.
Can I just comment on the housing for the elderly?
Oh, yes. Yep.
I'd like to be careful with the commercial sensitivity of it, but the leaflet on the 21st of August, which I'm thankful to Louis for raising, is about us as a landlord in terms of healthy homes policy. Now, we're under statutory obligations to provide certain levels of dryness and warmth and so forth, insulation for housing. So there's no choice about that, and we're cracking on with it. Secondly, so that led us to advise that there's going to be some disruption because some of our old people will see carpenters in their houses over the next 12 months while we're bringing things up to standard. For Emma's question, I'm just going to check to make sure that discontinuity of service that we're being told about is real or not, because as far as I'm concerned, we've got one really good person on point with support behind her, but let's just see whether that...
I haven't had a response yet, I think.
Yeah. Good, so it's a good try, Kath, but we'll pick that up as soon as we can. Now, on the commercial sensitivity bit, MHUD and NSC have a lot of money for housing for the elderly. There's a system which you're aware of called CHIPS. What does that stand for? Certified Housing, I'm not sure you might use anything. Providers. There are 8 providers in our district. 4 of those are EU, 4 are not. And the money is available to them to provide, to run an existing housing for the elderly stock. Okay, so the missing bit is we need a site and we need a builder, a funder to build the structures. So Whānau Holdings Limited at the moment is getting itself accredited as a body, of which there are only about 3 in the country, who are allowed to independently associate themselves with a chip. And the idea is that Whānau Holdings Limited would build new housing stock for housing for the elderly, and they would provide that service around that stock would be provided by the chip. So basically, Whānau Holdings Limited, I think John Research might know more as much about this as me, but the Whānau Holdings Limited is effectively providing housing to a government tenant, and the government will pay the market rates, the market rent, plus a premium to Whānau Holdings as the provider. And so there's profit in it for us as a council through Whānau Holdings instead of some independent developer, modest profit. And what we get out of it is brand new stock. We've got 147 tenants at the moment living in old stock. It's probably, it's got a capital value of about 22 million. We don't have that spare funding. So this is a very clever way of getting effectively a semi-private provider in a relationship, that's FNHL, in a relationship with government to put brand new stock on the ground. Then we have to think about how we migrate our existing tenants into new stuff. Now this is a slow burn. They're very active right now, but it will take time to get rubber on the road. And I guess the takeaway for you is, A, we're upgrading that core stock to make sure it's legal, and there's good pressure from central government. That's what the letter's about. But in the background, we're looking at a strategic solution to completely renew our housing for the elderly in the medium to long term. And we'll give you some more information on that in the weekend. Is that helpful?
Yeah, very good.
Can I just add that there's a paper coming to council on the 24th of September outlining all of that for consideration at a governance level. Just
okay, right. What we'll do is, thank you, Sean. Okay, have a good day. And Rachel, if you'd like to speak more, we can come to the meeting about that as well if you've got more information. Cool. Okay, right, back to the business at hand. So there's a lot of words here, so I'm just going to refer to them and maybe Kim can type them up. But the first resolution is we bring the first motion back on the table. All those in favour? Okay, so, and then we have an amendment. So I move that the resolution be amended thusly. The blank will be replaced with $2,619. Yep. And the community fund account to get replaced with the placemaking fund account. Do I have a second for the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any further? Okay, so first of all, we'll pass the amendment. All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay, and is there any discussion further on the resolution itself as a whole? Okay, so we're just about to put that to the vote. The new resolution becomes that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board, in considering the provisions of the community grant policy, authorise a sum of $2,619 plus GST if applicable to be paid from the board's placemaking fund to the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Educational Trust for costs towards the cleaning clearing of the Railway campus to support the following community outcomes: proud, vibrant communities that are healthy, safe, connected, and sustainable. All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried. Okay, so we'll move to bring the second one up. All those in favour? Okay, so, and I'll also move an amendment while we're at it, that the blank gets replaced with $1,000 and the board's community fund account gets replaced with the board's placemaking fund account. Do I have a second for that amendment?
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody want to discuss that amendment? All those in favour? Okay, is there any further discussion on the resolution as a whole? Okay, I'll put it that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board, in considering the provisions of the community grant policy, authorise a sum of $1,000 plus GST if applicable to be paid from the board's placemaking fund account South Hokianga Memorial Hall for costs towards erecting a small sign to support the following community outcomes: proud, vibrant communities that are healthy, safe, connected, and sustainable. All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried. Okay, and finally, I move that we bring the third one up. All those in favour? Okay, and I also move the following amendments. The blank gets replaced with account to $100. Okay, and a sub-clause that says, and the reasons for this out-of-policy decision are that we believe the kaupapa is sound and the ability of this group to raise the rest of the funds might be hard. Okay, do I have a second for that amendment?
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment? All those in favour of the amendment? Including, do you want to discuss the whole resolution?
No.
Okay, I'll put the motion that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board Board, in considering the provisions of the Community Grant Policy, authorise a sum of $3,100 plus GST applicable to be paid for the Board's Community Fund account to Te Kaikohe-Hokianga for cost towards running a 4-day community weaving workshop to support the following community outcomes: power evolving communities that are healthy, safe, connected and sustainable, and this is our policy decision because the kaupapa is sound and the group might have a hard time fundraising otherwise. All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried. All right. Next item. Page 72. Okay, do I have a motion? Actually, Kelly, I'll make this your motion. Okay. Do you want to move it?
Yep.
Okay, so Kelly Van Garland moves that the Kaikohe-Hokianga Community Board, in considering the provisions of the Community Grant Policy, authorises a sum of $20,000 plus GST if applicable to be paid from the Board's Community Fund account to Nafa Springs Board Charitable Trust on behalf of Te Waka Manamai Whānau Trust for costs towards Te Whenua to support the following community outcomes: Kaupapa communities that are healthy, safe, connected and sustainable. Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, I think we'll
We'll walk ahead, okay.
Okay. Does anyone wish to discuss this further?
It's all good.
It's all good. It's meeting an absolutely crucial need, so people that actually have nowhere else to go, so let's do it.
Yeah. No, agree. All right. I'm not going to read out again. That's too many words. All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay. Or anybody against? Carried. Right. And that, I think, is there anything that we have to do before the close of the meeting? That's.
I just need to ask.
Hang on. So we're going to have a workshop afterwards. So anything that can stay can be outside the meeting. We're going to do.
Yeah. Was there are we going to support
recommendation?
Look, where were we? I think we've already supported it, but I think it's well worth supporting. So, John Vucic is moving that we consider the location of the Wharepuku in Memorial Park. Okay, and the reason it hasn't been brought up before today and it couldn't appear on the agenda is that it's just been made. The second thing, and the reason it can't wait till next month is because the IEM people actually want to install it. Okay, so do I have a second for that motion? Okay, your motion then, John. Thank you. That's carried. Okay, and John, what is the motion?
Well, the motion being that the Wharepuku, the toilet, will be actually located according to the Memorial Park spatial plan that ACO provided.
Yeah.
And they select the location.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, do we have any discussion on that? Okay, I just think this is just a confirmation of our earlier motions earlier in the year about the location of the toilet in Memorial Park, so I'm all with this. Okay, I'll put it. That motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? Carried.
We need to discuss some of the visitors like.
Out at the workshop afterwards, there's nothing we can do at this meeting about those, but we certainly can discuss.
No, we can record, well, they'd be recorded, that's what they've done.
Yeah, no, we've got to discuss outside the meeting. Cool. Okay, in that case, we'll close the meeting at whatever the time is, and I'm sure lunch will be served shortly. Thank you very much. Live streaming and those who watch YouTube after this day for some examples of how to run a.
I pop up. He watches them.
Thank you.
Hi,